Millions of children worldwide are violated, and 1 million of them are not adequately protected from these violations, whereas every child has the right to live freely and to enjoy all the rights and also be taken care of as well as protected. And as we prepare for back to school these coming days, it is but needful for us to reflect and to think about how secured and protected will our children be while they go back to school. Greetings, dear TV friend, and welcome to another edition of Women's Voice on Divine Mercy Radio Television. Today's edition of the program, we decided to focus on child protection. We're going to look at some of the threats to the protection and the survival of children, and we're going to be discussing on how best we can mainstream child protection in education. I'll be having this beautiful conversation with experts who have been working on child protection and other persons who have been working with teenagers, whom you'll be discovering in the course of the program. Just to remind you that Women's Voice is a program that comes up every Thursdays 5 to 6 p.m. on Divine Mercy Radio Television, where we discuss issues we raise awareness and discuss issues about gender-based violence. We also talk about the barriers, and we promote good practice on the fight against gender-based violence, all geared towards having a gender equal and protected society. So the number of a muscle, dear TV friend, as today we decided to talk about child protection, and our focus will be mainstreaming child protection within the school milieu. So do not move a muscle. Right after this break, I'll be introducing to you the persons with whom we'll be conversing in the course of this program. Welcome back, dear TV friend. You're on to Women's Voice on Divine Mercy Radio Television, and today we are looking at mainstreaming child protection in the school milieu. You get to have an understanding. We're raising awareness on the need for people to understand and to know what child protection is and things to look out for when we're mainstreaming child protection, especially within the school milieu. And I'm going to be introducing to you the guests on set who will be joining me. These are young ladies and a gentleman who have dedicated their talent, their know-how to the protection of children in their day-to-day activities. I'll begin with the project coordinator at Tina Live, Henrietta Ansabom. Greetings to you and thank you for joining us on set today.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. I'm Henrietta Ansabom, the program officer, and I also double as the MHPSS expert. MHPSS, which stands for Mental Health and Psychosocial Support, and we are working a lot with children of teenage mothers, adolescent boys, adolescent girls, to see that we have a free society.
Thank you. It is but fitting that we have someone of that caliber to join us on set, who is also going to tell us about the effects, the cycle, the mental effect which some of these children who have been violated go through, such that we can learn and know how to handle these cases. And why not join our voices and all our strength to combat any threat to the safety and the protection of children. I'm going to introduce another lady who is quite instrumental. She is a child protection expert and has a world of experience working with children. She is Giselle Ma, the child protection officer at Tina Live. Greetings to you, Giselle, and thank you for joining us on set.
Greetings, Joyce. Good evening, everybody. I am Ma Giselle, like you earlier said, the child protection officer for Tina Live. Like my panelists and colleagues said, we work with children, teenage mothers, their children and adolescent boys and girls to have a better society. Like the motto says, a hopeful teen world.
Definitely. Thank you very much. And I always tell you that women's voice talks about issues that concern women, but it's not just about women. We have a fine gentleman joining us on set, and who has a keen attention on a secure and safe space for children, and why not equally by extension working with women. They say if you want to build a nation, entrust it in the hands of a woman, and if we must achieve that, we have to join our voices and our force and our strength with that of the men. So I'm going to introduce to you the gentleman joining us here on set. He is Ayok Etan Chris. He is a program assistant at Teen Alive. Greetings to you, Chris, and thank you for joining us on set.
Greetings, Joyce. Ayok Etan Chris. I'm the program assistant for Teen Alive and also double as the education focal person for Teen Alive. Teen Alive, just like our program coordinator said, we work a lot with children. We may ensure that there is no child who is left behind, and at the end everybody have a safe and secure environment so that every child can thrive and maximize his or her potential.
All right, thank you very much for squeezing out time. I must attest, I know how busy your schedule is, but I'm indeed grateful that you could make it and you made it on time. So these are the persons whom will be having this conversation, and you're free to join the conversation via SMS or WhatsApp on the numbers which you find on your screens. So I'm just going to kickstart immediately. When we talk about child protection, what particularly are we referring to? I'll start with you, Henrietta.
Okay. Child protection is that aspect of getting an environment where it is free from harm from any child. And when we talk of child protection, it embodies a lot. We talk of an environment where children are free to air their mind, where children are part of the decision making in the community, and decision making in the community will always start from the home. We talk of decision making in the school milieu. Subsequently, you get to understand how children can make decisions in the school milieu. We talk about child protection, where the children can also raise their voices to concerns, to issues that perpetrate their rights. Thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you very much. Giving a voice to children that they can also make their voices to be heard. I'll go with you, Giselle. You have something to add to that definition?
Yes, child protection is the protecting of children from violence, exploitation, abuse, and neglect. And it involves responding to violence or preventing it from happening again if it has already happened. That way we make sure that the children are safe so that any other violence should not occur to them again.
Okay, all right, that's quite interesting. Chris, I want to hear from you. What's your understanding or your own definition? When you hear child protection, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
Child protection, what comes to mind is very, very important too, because we deal with children a lot in teen life. So protecting these children from harm, keeping them away from any danger, from ensuring that their rights, they have the freedom to air their opinion, that their rights are heard, their dignity are maintained, is very, very important. So child protection basically is just about respecting the right, the dignity of the child and keeping them away from any form of harm.
Okay, that's quite interesting. Now, when we talk in basic terms, we've said keeping away all the things that would harm or will expose the children to abuse. I want us to go more practically for those who do not have the same level of intellect like us here on set to understand what are some of these abuses or some of these manifestations or some of the threats to child protection within our society. Either of you can start. What are some of the things that we consider as a threat or an abuse on a child and actually causes them a threat to child protection in society?
Okay, some of these threats or abuse are physical violence, rape, neglect, child labor.
Okay.
If I should add on the abuses within our life from our experiences, we have noticed that physical abuse and rape is the cankerworm that is eating our community. It is a day-to-day effect. On a daily basis, we are called up to handle cases of physical violence and rape in particular. And you cannot imagine how draining this aspect can be on the children. And in most cases, when we talk of the rape and the perpetrators of rape, these are people who are seem very close to the families. We have parents, we have the uncles, we have brothers in the house. And most of the times, these perpetrators go free because people do not want to promote this aspect of rape culture. And so we are really giving a shout at that. We should stop the rape culture. What do we mean by rape culture? Rape culture is when you are seated and somebody else does it, and you promote and encourage that that person should be punished. Whereas when it happens to you in your own milieu, you want to cover up. So we are saying that on a daily basis, the rape issue in particular is, you cannot imagine that we are having cases of 3 months, 5 months, 2 years, 3 years who are raped on a daily basis, and we have to attend to them. Imagine the psychology of that child's mind. So it's quite horrible.
Damaging and horrible. All right. These are some of the practical things. And when we talk about child labor, I think this has to do with, maybe one of you could explain. We talk about child labor, which is one form or one threat to child protection on a day. This is so that people can see this and understand that what they are doing is actually not correct. So within our society, what are the common manifestations of the abuses or violations on children?
Okay, if I may go ahead, I'll just cite an example of child labor. For example, you send a 3-year-old child to the stream to fetch water with a 20-liter gallon that you know that child cannot carry, but you expect the child to bring water to the house full in that gallon. Okay. That's, you're over laboring the child.
Okay.
All right. That's an example of child labor. And some of the violences that these children face nowadays, just like Henrietta said, the rape, which is very common, and like she said, it is who are the perpetrators? Just those who are around us, the people that we know are the perpetrators. And also child labor is when you give work to a child when it's beyond his or her physical force or maybe age.
Okay. All right. Those are the common and typical manifestation. We also have bullying. We also have harassment. We also have maybe even abuse, this verbal abuse, which is quite a threat, or which actually causes psychological damage onto these teenagers. Now, I just wanted to find out, maybe from you, Henrietta, since you are a mental expert, what are some of the effects of these abuses and the neglect which some of these children could be exposed to?
Oh, thank you very much. Some of these effects on the children is that, first of all, they are physically drained. Okay. Some of them, you look at their skin, they have some funny skin texture. Some of them will just have unnecessary, maybe I don't want to call them scabies or rashes, or at times you just see unnecessary pimples growing in parts of the body that are not necessary. We also have this aspect of withdrawal in children when they are mentally deranged. Okay. And most of the times, these abuse do not really come physical. They come through the type of words we utter to the children. And take for example, you keep telling a child, you stubborn idiot, you lazy thing, and things like that. When you tell a child as often as possible that you lazy thing, you expect to assign that child and then the child does some work, the child will just probably resign from it. And we should also learn that the type of images that we expose to children means a lot to them. For example, I would not want to talk about pornography. We have horror movies that most of the times we, the adults, cannot even stand, yet we watch them with children, and it really breaks them down. This also have an effect of making them to withdraw. So there is a lot when it comes to psychological issues and the effect of children.
All right, thank you very much. Zizal, you wanted to add something?
But just to add to what she said, concerning the mental health of children, like for example, we should be mindful of what we say, what we share on the internet. The social media is a safe space, and also it's a positive and negative space. So it all depends on how we want to use it. But for us who are humanitarians, that we are out to protect children, not only children, maybe make the community safe for everybody, we have to be mindful of what we say. We cannot just see something people are sharing on WhatsApp and we take it and we begin to share. Have you thought of the mental state of the person who is involved in that crime? Or I don't know if I can call it crime. Have you thought of the family of the person you sharing it? What comes to your mind when you share such? So I would just like to say, let's be mindful of what we share to make our community safe. Tina Life cannot do it alone. Joyce cannot do it alone. It starts with all of us. It starts with you and I.
Okay, definitely. It starts with you and I. And Chris?
Yeah, concerning the effect of this abuse on children's psychology, I must add, it really has a lot to play with their self-esteem, because self-esteem is that thing that pushes you to do more in life. And when your self-esteem is low, believe me, you can't perform at your best. So it plays a lot, calling children derogatory name, calling them funny names, labeling them. It plays a lot with their psychology. It makes them to have very low self-esteem about themselves, and it makes it very, very impossible for them to function. So it is very, very important for us to be mindful of what we say to our children, to be mindful of what we say, how we treat children, because it has a lot to play in their life growing up.
Definitely. And also what we do or we expose them to, it affects and it grows within them, and therefore dampens. And actually and one of the very common signs of a child who has been abused is usually silence or withdrawal. And sometimes on the other extreme, we have children who actually after some time just go violent as a result of the accumulated abuse and stress. Thank you very much for this discussion. If you're just tuning in, you're on to Women's Voice. We are looking at mainstreaming child protection in education, things to look out for. You can join the conversation via SMS or WhatsApp on the numbers which you find on your screens. So we're going to continue now. We're taking this conversation one step at the other. We have now had an understanding of what child protection is. We've also known the abuses on children and the impacts of these abuses, of this abuse on children. So now I want us to talk about mainstreaming. When we talk about mainstreaming child protection, what are we referring to?
Mainstreaming child protection is making sure that child protection cuts across every sector, like the health, nutrition, education. Like we've given the definition of child protection, so we just put it across every other sector.
Okay.
Again, I just want to add that when we talk of mainstreaming child protection, is that whatever we are doing, children should be our focus. They should be at the center of every activity that we are taking. Are you a parent in a house that you are supposed to change the school of your child, that you haven't asked the opinion of the child needs to give his or her own opinion? Are you a parent that wants a child to go and stay with an auntie and you did not ask the child's opinion? The child has his or her own opinion on that. Are you a person in a community where we have public taps and a child comes to carry water, and because you are an elderly person, you tell the child that I have my things to do, whereas the child has been sent by an elderly person? We must see into those aspects that children, whatever we are doing, we put children at the center.
All right, that is in more practical terms to say that no matter how small they are, their rights have to be respected, their voices have to be heard, and their opinions have to count in every aspect. Either in whatever we do, we need to actually give them a listening ear to have them have their own say on the things that matter. Now, I want us to look at mainstreaming child protection in education. Now we are narrowing down to the specifics, and I just want to find out from you here on set, mainstreaming child protection in education, like you say, to make sure that within the context of education sector, let's say in schools, children are safe and guarded and protected from all forms of abuse. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now we look at within the school milieu, and I think this topic is timely because parents are preparing to send back their schools. So if we have to mainstream, is it quite important for us to mainstream child protection within school milieu? Do you think it's important?
Yes, of course, it is very, very important. We're talking about child protection, yeah, and education. We're talking about children.
Yeah.
From 3 to at least 18, we're talking about children. So it is very, very important to ensure that these children in school, their rights are respected, their voice are heard, and their dignities as well are respected. Their opinion counts. So it is very, very important for us to mainstream child protection in education in all its form.
Okay, Joyce, I just want to add that looking at the different rights of children, the rights to nutrition, the rights to health, the rights to education, which we are talking about, we must consider children when we talk of education. Who are these teachers teaching the children? Who are the administrators teaching the children? The facilities of the school, is it okay? Are they conducive? Is it inclusive? Because we also have children who are persons with disability. Is it a friendly environment? So all those things cannot be jeopardized, because we have principles of child protection. We have principles such as best interest of the child. You must look at what actually suits the child in the school milieu. We have the interest of non-discrimination. Does a child come to you and wants to talk to you, say, look at you, this dirty thing, you don't even put on a uniform, I cannot attend to you? We also have the issue of the child development, the environment with which a child grows. We usually call that the nurture and the nature. How does nature place? How does nurture place? So all those aspects must be taken into consideration when we are talking about children, and we must not be judgmental when dealing with children. We must believe the children when they come to us
and give them the opportunity to participate.
All right, thank you very much for throwing more light, which also led us to some of the principles of child protection. And if you can, you may also extend on other principles of child protection, which we'll be doing in the course of the program. Now, we've established and also understood that it is important for us to mainstream child protection within the school milieu. And I just want to find out from you, what are some of the abuses or the child abuse cases which we can commonly find in schools? Maybe share with us so that people can know about this, and subsequently when they see it, they blow the whistle and it is handled or harnessed, or maybe it is stopped immediately within our school milieu, within our context in Cameroon, in the northwest and southwest regions. What, based on your experience on the field, what are some of the abuses on children which is common in school milieu?
Okay, some of these abuses, that is the violence that is common in school milieu. Remember, we're talking about education in emergency. When you mention northwest and southwest, which are crisis areas, we are in an emergency, and during emergencies, violence is on its rise. And when we talk of violence, the type of violence that children would take from the school to their house and the house to school, we have bullying, we have fighting, we have stabbing. You know, there are a lot of these just alteration of funny or vulgar language, a lot of it that is common in our school milieu.
Okay, and I want to add some Chris or Giselle, other forms of abuses or violence within the school milieu which actually are a threat to child protection? What are some of the, besides the one which Henrietta just enumerated?
Just to add to what she has said, corporal punishment.
Okay.
It's one of the abuses that children face in the school.
Okay. And Chris?
Yeah, we just don't want to concentrate only in the school milieu. I want to also look at attack on their way to school and back from school, because it is also affecting them while in school and even at home. So it is something that is very, very important, need to be taken into consideration.
Okay. So what are some of the, besides within the school, the confines of the schools, you are saying that there are also other areas where these children are at risk in the course of attaining their education? Would you highlight some of the risks or the threats to child protection away from school, which you find in society?
Well, well, away from school, some of the issues that children, their attacks they face on their way and back from school. They face issues like rape, they face issues like bullying, they face issues like beating, beaten by people they meet on the street,
harassment,
harassment. So thanks for that, harassment and so on and so forth. And they affect them a lot in their educational system.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Henrietta. Did I cut you short? We're about adding something.
Yes, this aspect of talking down on children is a very serious issue, because most of the times we shun them when they want to raise awareness, when they want to also make their opinions count. Maybe, for example, a child was harassed on his or her way to school or back from school, or raped, and living in a confine of parents where, let me say, they are very authoritative. They will not want to listen to the child. When the child comes back and wants to say, "Mommy, on my way to school," they just hold the child down. It's a serious concern. Again, back in school, we still too do not have some of these open environments where children can trust and then will want to express themselves. A child will really come and is expressing his or herself like, "I was harassed," and you will hear the person whom the child trusted will be telling her that, "How were you dressed? What were you doing there?" and things like that. You just hold the child down and makes the child to lose their self-esteem.
All right. Okay, thank you very much. These are very practical things which we actually see them there every day, but we do not know that they are actually a threat or actually something which is to be deterred. You can join the conversation, dear TV friend, if you're just tuning in. You're on to Women's Voice. So I'm going to take on this some of this one contribution. Sexual harassment is a threat to child protection. Male teachers sexually harassing female children. I think this is one of the viewer who was watching and telling us that sexual harassment is a threat to child protection in the school milieu, and is enumerating that male teachers sexually harassing female students is a cause for concern and things which we should look out for when talking about child protection. So, dear TV friend, if you're just tuning in, you're on to Women's Voice and can join the conversation via SMS or WhatsApp on the numbers which you find on your screens. We've laid the foundation on what child protection is. We'll talk about the different manifestations of the abuse and neglect on children, and we've also been talking. We've talked about the importance. We've talked about the importance of mainstreaming child protection in education. We've also looked at the impact or the effect of these abuse on children, which affects their self-esteem, affects their growth, affects their development, and also causes them to withdraw from society. So now I want us to look at some of the barriers. What are some of the things we have agreed that child protection means? Saving or creating safe spaces for children, for their voices to be heard, for them to be free of violations, and also for them to enjoy their rights as children, the right to live, the right to education, the right to nutrition, the right to health, and all the rights that children have. Now, I want to discuss about this, the whole thing about child protection here. What are some of the barriers that we have when it comes to child protection? What are some basic, and also you can share with us some practical tips since you have been on the field and you're working on these cases. What are some of the hindrances to child protection?
Okay, I think I'll go first with the hindrances. You know, we work a lot with accountability. The fact that most of us are not accountable to children because we minimize these children. And when we talk of accountability, what does that mean? Taking into consideration their rights, the rights to decision making. Most at times we just decide on the children. You go to the market, you just buy a dress for a child and just come and impose on the child. You choose the school for the child. Or secondary school students, we see them on a daily basis where they come to school. You are giving guidance on a child that according to your IQ, you better fit in the arts or the sciences. A child will tell you, my mother said I should do sciences. That is not being accountable to the children. A child is supposed to go to school with after feeding, and if you don't have enough, some parents don't deem it necessary to explain things to the children. They are not accountable to the children. They just want the children to understand and flow from that perspective, whereas children at any age can understand. It all depends on how we communicate this to the children.
Okay, all right. Some of the barriers is the fact that we adults, the barrier child protection is we adults are not accountable to the children. It's not a one-way traffic. Accountability goes two ways. Same way the children are accountable to us adults, we adults have to be accountable to these children by getting their voices, having their say. And I think that if it comes to practical terms that you have to choose a school for the child, I think it necessitates for us to dialogue and at least listen to the children. In that way, we are able to create safe spaces and protect these children. So I'll go on with you, Chris. What are some of the other barriers to child protection in society?
I will go with the discriminatory nature of some school proprietors and even parents. You know, normally with child protection, you don't need to discriminate. The principle of non-discrimination needs to be applied. But with some people, they have this discriminatory nature where they don't care. They tell you it's just like they select like in school. The school will select, no, we don't want students with disabilities and so on and so forth. And parents will tell you, no, you are a child with disability, you're not supposed to go to school. I have cases where you meet a child with a disability who has been locked in the house for years and nobody even know that the child is there. That's an issue of discrimination because they did not give that child the opportunity to grow like the others. You go to schools, a school may say, for example, just of recent the minister passed a communique where female students who are pregnant are allowed to go through school. But at first it wasn't like that. Female, when the school realized that a female student is pregnant, they expel that student from school. But that is an aspect of discrimination, which is not supposed to be like that. So I believe if we can change that discrimination nature of us and respect the principle of non-discrimination, where we believe that everybody, irrespective of their abilities or special needs, have equal rights to participate in academic issues, that will be very, very fantastic.
All right, thank you very much. I think this also appeals for inclusiveness in the education sector, which means that discrimination, which we do in society, has to stop. And there are different forms. He just painted some discriminating based on their ability, and other families also carry out different forms of discrimination, maybe by doing male preference, and especially with children. Now, Giselle, could we talk about some hindrance or some barriers or some things which affect child protection in our society?
Okay, some of the barriers of child protection in our society are parental influence.
Okay.
Maybe a child might be going through something and you want to talk, when it comes to case management, you want to talk to the child, but the child cannot openly speak to you because he or she is afraid of what the parent might do. And then there is this intimidation as well. The child can be intimidated by other children. and then there is this barrier of there's a communication problem when the child does not know how to tell you what happened. Maybe a child was raped and she does not know how to even go about it. So this communication problem is one of the barriers that we have as well. Or maybe she might be willing to speak up, but she does not know where to go to. And then there is this aspect of confidentiality as well. If a child is raped and that child comes to you, he or she is afraid that if she comes to you and tell you that she was raped, you might spread it in the whole community. Okay. So some of these barriers are intimidation, parental influence, communication problems, and confidentiality.
Okay, Henrietta?
Yes, just to add to this intimidation, there are this set of children that we work very close with, the adolescent girls. Why the adolescent girls? Because in school, Teen Alive is on a campaign that we should normalize menstruation among schools, because most of the times the productivity of these learners usually drop at the end of the term. This is because when they are menstruating, most of them are shy, they are being jeered by their fellow classmates, and so they want to stay out of school until they pass that process, that period of menstruation. So during this period, they are intimidated, they are rejected by some friends, and it has a lot to play on their self-esteem. So we have to together join our voices to normalize menstruation, most especially in school.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to take on a contribution here from Doris. Great panelists, a great topic, beautiful host. Thank you. It is time we all come together and become child protection advocates. Barriers to child protection include children not being involved in their own development decision. Harmful cultures that encourage early marriages are also a barrier to a child protection. This is from Doris. What do you have to say with her suggestion, Giselle?
I think she has really given some of the major barriers, like the harmful practices of some cultures. It's really a big barrier because some cultures don't allow you to carry out certain sensitization or advocacies with their female children. Okay. And then there is this aspect she made mention of
early marriages.
Yes, in some cultures, you cannot just wake up and go somewhere. Some cultures are allowed you to come and start talking about it's not advisable to give your children for marriage as early as possible, and some of these parents are the ones who will actually contribute to this. Maybe your father may be owing this person, and then he has a female daughter, and then he takes you and give you in order for marriage in order to pay his debt.
Okay.
Yes, Joyce, just to add to what Giselle has said, most especially on the child marriage that we are experiencing, you realize that most of the times this happens because of poverty. So poverty is a serious barrier to this, and because of poverty, you realize that we'll have too many teenage mothers around because they want to go out to see how they can manage and help among themselves. And in some cases, the parents of these teenagers will send them out after men. So poverty is a serious barrier.
All right, poverty indeed is a serious barrier to child protection. And now I want us to go back to within the school milieu. How do you think, what would be your suggestions as to how we can mainstream child protection in education? I'll start with you, Chris.
Yeah, mainstreaming child protection in education, the first thing we need to do is we need to ensure a safe location for children, a safe location of access to children to go to school. I mean, the road that they take to school, we need to make sure that it is really safe for them to be able to attend education. And we also need to ensure that a safe learning environment for children. It is very, very important for children. When we talk about child protection, the learning environment, it needs to be safe from any harm. We'll go to some certain school and you see the buildings are collapsing. That is not child protection friendly. You need to ensure that the environment where children learn are very, very safe from any form of
harm. Okay, ensuring that the environment, be it the road to the school and also the school premises, have to be safe in terms of infrastructural development and security. That is one way which we can mainstream through education. And Giselle, what do you think? How can we mainstream? How possibly can child protection be mainstreamed within the education sector?
Some of the key actions to take when mainstreaming child protection in education is you prioritize.
Okay.
That is, prioritize safety and dignity to make sure you don't cause any harm.
Okay.
You strengthen, which means you strengthen the participation and involvement of the children, and also you take accountability. Which means taking accountability of the affected population.
Okay, you strengthen and take account of the affected population, which means that in practical terms, you ought to empower these persons either through education or raising awareness on these topics, and also take on account, let their voices be heard. And I'll go with you, Henrietta. What are the things to look out for? How can we mainstream child protection in education?
Okay, mainstreaming child protection in education. Just want to plead with our audience, most especially our teachers in school, that they should remember that they were trained as teachers, but they were not trained as teachers in emergencies.
Okay.
So a lot of awareness raising and sensitization is ongoing. We have structures all over us that can help these teachers carry out this mainstreaming of protection in schools. Green Partners have been doing a lot on this, training teachers on psychosocial support, and Teen Alive too is also doing a lot, and we have those services put in place. If we don't go on air for sensitization and awareness raising, you can always contact them. And again, how we mainstream child protection in school is that we have life skills programs that we carry out in school, and these life skill programs might interest you to know that we offer comprehensive sexuality education in schools, both primary and secondary schools. We also offer issues of make them to understand issues of surrounding their bodies, like menstruation, menstrual hygiene and sanitation, and just to name a few. And we are also planning to train teachers on how they can manage violence in school and help children in these affected regions to manage their mental health and psychosocial support, since children spend most of their time with these teachers in school.
All right, thank you very much. These are the things which they're looking out for, or what can be done to mainstream child protection. First is about training or equipping the teachers themselves with the appropriate or adequate skills such that they can be able to psychologically attend to these children, because one of the things that a consequence of these abuse on children is that they are mentally damaged. And if a teacher has before him or her a child who is mentally damaged and he or she is not well equipped with the skills on how to manage that, he or she might end up causing more harm to the child. So it is important that teachers themselves get trained and also get to understand what child protection is, and also know the different manifestations of this abuse on children, and with that they are able to handle these children and not add on to the violation or the pain which the children are already experiencing. Let me take on this contribution. Greetings to you in the studio. This is quite timely to have this conversation, especially as we're preparing to send our children to school. I would suggest that schools should have counselors trained to be able to talk with children so that they can open up and talk about their suffering or their harassment within the context of their school year. What do you think about that suggestion?
I think that's a very good suggestion, but from what we see in Cameroon, most of the government schools, they have guidance counseling services in schools. So it is a service that is already there in the government schools. But for the private school, it is something that still needs to be encouraged for the private schools to employ counselors who talk to children. But for the government school, I can assure that they have guidance counselors who talk to children. And that is an aspect that helps to build the morale, build the self-esteem of these children, and also help them to develop psychologically.
Yes,
okay.
Joyce, I want to go with this getting counselors in schools. In secondary schools, we have them. Gone are those days when we used to have these armchair guidance counselors, but today it is not the case. Today, counselors go to class just like teachers, because you know that this guidance and counseling is not our culture, and people shy away from it. So we have to go to them. We tell them the importance of it, how they can access the services, how confidential the services can be, and how their reactions can affect them positively and negatively in our environment. And so we are saying that it is true that we have the counselors in place, but how many of these counselors are there per student?
Okay.
So the efficiency, the effectiveness of it too should be questioned.
All right. In other words, in schools that do not have counselors, make sure you have counselors to help these children. And those who have counselors, make sure your ratio is equivalent to the number of children who are in your school. Let me take on this contribution. We should encourage the employment of female teachers and teachers with disability to build an inclusive, tolerant and respectful society. That is a suggestion. When mainstreaming child protection, we should encourage the employment of female teachers and teachers with disability to build an inclusive, tolerant and respectful society. What's your take on that?
I think it is very, very good, because we're trying to build a society built of inclusiveness in the society. So we want children with disabilities to be in school, to participate in all school aspects. It is very, very important for us to have teachers with disabilities to be there to teach them, because most often when students with disability they go to school, what they tell them if they're not admitted is that we don't have the facilities or the teachers to take care of it. So it's important if schools can employ, for example, if a school can employ a teacher who knows how to sign, if a school can employ a teacher who can read the Braille very well. So it's very important. It encourages students with disability to be in school as well.
Definitely. It is important. I'll just go back a little bit to say that one of the things which you said earlier on, which is a threat to child protection, is that children who are with disability are not given access to education. Some are just maybe pampered in school just to be on in their classrooms, but it is important. I'm going also on this point that they have teachers with disability. Imagine a child having a teacher who can read Braille, and also a child with a teacher who can do sign language, and also have a school for maybe a child who can actually those who actually have maybe speech impairment. I think they are all different kind of disabilities, which I think schools should actually incorporate these different teachers. What's your take on this suggestion from this viewer, Henrietta?
Well, yeah, it's a very important aspect when we talk of inclusiveness, because the truth is that in those days, when we hear of a teacher, we always knew that the teacher was a man. And if we have too many men in an environment, it's threatening to the school environment, because if you go to our schools, the numbers that are outstanding are women. And we also encourage an environment where a child must feel comfortable to express him or herself. And most of the times when a child is abused, if it's a male, the child wants to open up to a male. And if the child is a female, the child will want to open up to a female teacher or a female assistant. So let's not actually saying that more women should be employed as teachers. Let's talk of that equality. Everybody should be given an equal chance to have that platform.
All right, thank you very much. These are the things we need to look out for when mainstreaming child protection within the school milieu. Giselle, you have something to add to the contribution, or your thought or your take on these contributions?
Well, they've said it all. Inclusiveness. So inclusiveness is very important. We take from every aspect, be it persons with disability or not.
Okay. All right, that's quite interesting there. We've had a beautiful conversation so far, and we hope we got you inspired, dear TV friend, because the aim was to raise awareness on what child protection is and things to look out for when mainstreaming child protection. And we didn't only limit it at the level of education, we'd also raise awareness on the different abuses which children go through on a day-to-day basis, such that you can identify that and know that this is not correct. And with the little you've learned here, you can be able to address or how to handle some of these situations. So before we go, I'm going to begin with you, Chris. Overall, reach our talking point where we've also discussed the effects of these abuses. We'll talk about things to look out for when mainstreaming child protection within the school environment. What is your take, or what is your message to our viewers watching us at the moment?
What I would tell our viewers is, these children, they have rights that they need to be respected. Their voices need to be heard. So it is very, very important for us to take this into consideration when we're dealing with children. We need to ensure that their rights are respected, their voices are heard, and their dignities as well, and their opinions also counted. So it's very, very important for us to. So I would tell our viewers to respect the rights of children, make sure that their opinions count, and their voices also heard. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you again for squeezing out time, your busy schedule, to come and share with us. And with you, Giselle, what is your message to our viewers as we're about to end this session for today?
Well, what I have to say to everyone watching is child protection starts from you, and let's also try to pay attention to what children are saying or doing as parents or any other person in the community. And also Chris rightly said, child participation is very important, and I'd like to encourage every child out there that if you're going through any form of violence, be confident enough to speak out, because if you don't speak out, we might not be able to help. We have you can call Tina Live. The numbers are on the screen. You can call Tina Live, or you can even call Joyce. She will call Tina Live to come to your aid. It is very important to speak out when you're going through any form of violence, because if you keep it, it's going to affect you emotionally.
Definitely, thank you so much. Tina Live works with teenagers. I think Henrietta is going to throw more light before she gives us our concluding words on today's program. So Henrietta, just brief our viewers on the objectives and the projects of Tina Live.
Okay, Tina Live is working in close collaboration with many international organizations, and we are partners with UNICEF, we are partners with INSO, we are also partners with GPARC that we just recently signed. We are also partners with Street Child, and all these are international organizations. We work in close collaboration with Danish Refugee Council, and our concern, our audience include children of teenage mothers, adolescent girls, adolescent boys, and teenage fathers. So we work most especially with children, and they are the ultimate of our every activity. And we are working, we have a running project that we are working, we are identifying and producing civil documentations for these children, these adolescent girls and boys, teenage mothers. We also have mental health and psychosocial support services that we are carrying out in this project. We also have life skill activities that is going on in school. It will be running this September in schools across the region, in the Northwest and Southwest region. We also have Teenage Mothers Club that is running in the communities for teenage mothers and adolescent girls who cannot access education. And in that Teenage Mothers Club, they will be learning how to gain skills on hands-on activities that can give them income generating and then life skill. But and then on my take, the recommendation that I want to give out there is that we are going back to school. The children are going back to school. Dear parents, please, these children are our children. We should not leave them in the hands of the teachers, because I hear everywhere, even in the taxis, where parents say, "I beg, make school start, me they go my rest." These children are our children. We should be there for the children, so that if these children are going through any issues, we can be able to identify and help them out. Keep watching Divine Mercy Radio and television, and let's keep our environment free from disease and violence from our children. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to conclude with this contribution. Parents should always be a safe space for their kids. Parents, create a safe environment where your children can be free to discuss everything with you. Our homes and families should be the first platforms for children's protection. A safe environment for children is an assurance of a great future. I enjoyed this session. Thank you very much, Doris, and to all of you watching us this moment. Unfortunately, we are going to be drawing the curtains of today's edition of the program. The rebroadcast will be yours on Sunday at 4:30. If you did enjoy, why not take on the rendezvous with us next Thursday, same time, 5 p.m. on Divine Mercy Radio Television. We are going to be leaving in the company of more interesting programs coming up next on DMRTV. Do stay tuned. From my end to yours, we say goodbye and thank you for watching.